This level is named Into the Closet, and this was one of the early concepts we had for a level, because since we have the theme of a child, and since you play a child in the game, we have the theme of children, and so we looked at things that we were afraid of when we were young, and some common themes. And closet doors was one that we started looking at early, and we imagined, I think it started out as just a room covered in closet doors, but then it ended up being a whole level with only hallways and rooms covered in closet doors, and then being in some of the closets and traversing them.
Yeah, so I really like the variety that we managed to get into the game. Like every level is kind of a contained space in terms of art assets and stuff. So we, like here for instance, this whole level is like inside a big closet with closet doors everywhere, and also kind of strange gravitational laws of physics where stuff just sticks to the ceiling, and it's really, we wanted it to be very confusing and feel much bigger than it actually is, and it was also an environment that stood out from the other ones, as they all do in certain ways.
This chapter also works well as the visuals resembles a broken home or just a chaotic home, which works well with the theme.
So we had a lot of trouble optimizing this level. Everything is constructed in one big scene in Unity, and it has a lot of closet doors everywhere, and actually it has a lot less doors than we actually wanted to have. We wanted there to be hallways leading everywhere and doors going in one place, and you exit in a completely different place on the other side. Really confusing, but still it was supposed to feel very big, so we made it actually big, and we got to pay for that, as the frame rate was very hard to keep down. So as this level is rather big and confusing by design, we needed kind of a red thread for the player to follow through the level, and this endless drawer, as we call it, works in that fashion, as well as being a bridge that you have to extend in order to reach the deeper parts of the level. So it works both as a guide for the player, but also a blocker and a gate that we can use to limit the player's progression.
Tell us about this drawer. Was it fun?
Well, it's a really long drawer. It's called the Endless Drawer internally here, and it's about 200 meters long, I think. And you need to move it and walk on it, and it needs to collide properly with the geometry, well, the physics engine isn't really designed to properly handle 200-meter long drawers. So there's been a lot of interesting problems with that, like getting stuck in various things and exploding basically sometimes.
Yeah, I think it's also was like, I remember once that sometimes you just started jumping when you went on the drawer. Sometimes the drawer was just kind of jiggling about.
Yeah, it would sometimes just get stuck in geometry and basically kind of continuously explode for a while, and it would just shake a lot. And walking on it was horrible because the player would shake and sometimes you'd fall off, and it's horrible.
there's 3 specific events happening when you actually break bottles, and it gets more and more kind of tense, scary, and the more and more presence of a monster each time we break glasses. And that's kind of also to show people that glasses are dangerous, and also to reinforce the idea about, you know, the monster and the bottles, kind of make people think about the association between those 2.
The endless drawer, we call it, is also a thing we wanted to do because we think that it fits the theme of something realistic but still being very unrealistic, so it fits the theme of the child's imagination. A drawer that just stretches into, like, it seems like it never stops, it goes on forever.
Well, first, I would like us to have populated the small closets everywhere. Now, almost none of the doors are openable, but our vision was to have most of them openable, and inside you would find something that was sort of unique. But of course, that was kind of crazy to begin with, so we didn't.
If you twist the globe for a while, it actually starts playing a little bit of a melody.
This room, I do like it. And as you can see, this is very reminiscent of the room in the intro part of the level. You have the same type of floor with markings on it, and you also have codes everywhere. And this is where code becomes a theme for this level, which is also because of how the monster is designed. That is just a big coat. We wanted the player to go through it and then trigger the coats to suddenly move, to make it feel as if there was something in the room with the player. And this is one of the points of the game where the physics solution does not work out perfectly, at least not the way we move the codes. We add force at the codes so that they move, and all of these codes have bones and stuff like that. Yeah, so all of the codes are rigged and have bones, and we add force to them, but it just does not look like we wanted them to. We really wanted it to look like something was actually moving through the coats, but yeah, so it didn't work out quite as well as I'd hoped.
One thing that I think is quite special about the game is how we have kind of resolved the entire game and how events play out through physics. Well, at least most of it. So where it would probably have been easier just animating stuff and have a predictive behavior. We instead work with physics for the entire game and how the player moves, from how the player moves to how apples roll to how doors open. There are some animations, of course, but there's a lot of... The game is built a lot on top of physics.
We wanted to connect the breaking of bottles to scary atmosphere, and you shouldn't want to break the bottles because then you spawn the monster. So this is where we show that this happens for the first time.
This is the game's hub room in a way, like the same as the painting area in the level 3. This is sort of where your main objective can be seen. Like there's a star door, which is quite beautiful, and you kind of see a texture reminiscent of the memory fields from previous levels.
So you immediately know what to do and how to get to the imagination object inside of the room, because you just came through the moon key door that we call it. You have just been introduced to how this door works, so you know that as soon as you see the star key door and the imagination field behind it, you know that there's the imagination field and there's a door blocking me, and I need a star shape of some kind.
So when the player drops back into this room, I think for a while it was a bit confusing with the whole backtracking, and it's not quite backtracking. The player goes in, blah blah blah. So when you return here, you have gone in a loop. You've gone back a different way than the one you came. So you end up in a place that it was before you, but it's not that easy to recognize as somewhere you have been. But as soon as we got these big glowing doors in, it was instantly recognizable. So this drawer is another thing that didn't really work well with a physics-based solution. It used to be driven by the physics system, so it actually didn't stop unless something physically blocked it. But since it moved so fast, it would go straight through the object before detecting that it was there and cause a lot of trouble and making it unplayable for a lot of players. And it actually was like that for a couple of days after initial release. So we spent some time and remade it completely using much more controllable animations. Looks just the same, but it's a lot more stable.
The drawer also works as a red thread throughout the whole chapter, as it's very unorganized and chaotic layout-wise. You're still always following the drawer.
There was one ID where you looked into a closet and you looked down on yourself from an earlier part of the level, like a time portal through a closet. I liked it, but it was hard to implement. It was just a fun idea, it didn't really add to the story, but it's something I would have liked to see.
Isn't the remnants of that actually where we are now? Like you kind of go and you get teleported up in the air.
Yes.
So that was the space right here that we actually were supposed to see that.
Yes.
Right here we have one of the rooms that is sort of, I think, one of the coolest rooms that no one really probably noticed, because it has so many cool small tricks to it. Like you can go into this little side door and you would actually get on top and look all the way down. And later when you got back, the whole room will have rotated, and not too many people noticed that. Actually, I sure didn't until someone told me the first time I tried it. I think we also had an idea here that you would see yourself if you go to the secret kind of exit, and you would look down and see yourself, but that was kind of a bit tricky, I guess.
This was also actually a game mechanic for a puzzle that was used in an earlier iteration of the level, where you come into the room, and if you look up, you can see that you are in a long hallway, and there's a very long way to the top, and then you would go through this door, and then you would end up at the very top, and you would have to push a box down, so that this box could be used down on the first floor and in order to reach something. But this didn't survive the iterations. Probably because it's a really weird, not intuitive mechanic, and this stuff is hard to introduce.
But yeah, the perspective room. You go through a door and you enter a room, and it's weird because in front of you have this big bottle, and inside it there's a key, and yeah, the key as well is huge, like twice as big as the baby, and the rest of the room is just populated with strange geometry. Nothing looks right, and it doesn't resemble anything. But something drags you kind of through the room. You want to explore, so you go to the other end. And so the idea here was that when the player turns around at the other side, everything that is in the room will align, and you will see that the bottle is now standing on top of a table, and it looks like it's within reach because it's so big when it's on the other side of the room, but when you go to the other side again, it looks just the right size. So, and it's also conveniently placed on top of a table that kind of comes together with all these pieces that are flying around in the air. And then you could pick up the bottle, and it would now be...
You still can, though.
Yeah. Well, yeah. It's not in there anymore, though.
Is it? Okay.
No. It's all gone. We took it out because it was really hard to get people to understand it. Because, yeah, you're supposed to go through and then turn around and pick up the bottle that used to be huge but now looks small. And when you pick it up, we would move it towards the player, so it actually is right in front of you in the right size. So we figured out how to do that, and it looks perfect. Like you can't see the bottle getting smaller. It just, you pick it up and then you suddenly have it in your hand. But none of our playtesters understood how this worked. Or when I first picked up the bottle, it was cool and everyone liked it, but we couldn't figure out in time how to make people understand that this was what we wanted them to do in this room. That made us, in the end, cut the entire thing.
Could you say, in team meet, Edmund Macmillan says that once you have a skill that is kind of only used once, it's kind of useless.
Right.
And in my opinion, like, we didn't really properly integrate the whole concept of perspective rooms. I think that's kind of the main problem, that when people got in there, they weren't used to think that, oh, this is something I can do with perspective.
Because for this entire level, we, as mentioned, we wanted everything to be unique, and we had many small ideas that didn't fit in other levels that we felt we could just put inside a random closet in this level and make that part of the kind of randomness, and yeah, it should be room for anything. But the perspective room it started out as just this kind of small weird room that didn't necessarily have a purpose, but then we ended up using it for one of the main objectives in the level, which is getting the key to the star-shaped door. And yeah, it was the only place in the game where you would do anything with perspective in that way. So people did not expect, they did not think in the right way because we hadn't introduced it. So it's a cool effect though, and I would really like to explore it more in another game. Maybe someday.
Oh, look here. Now it's different. You get back in the hallway and it looks different now. So many new things. And now you can walk this way. This is actually quite really clever way to sort of present, instead of like boxes in level 1, now we have the freedom to do more weird stuff. So now we actually have the possibility to rotate the room and thereby opening it up to more kind of interesting ways of leading the player.
Yes, so upon opening this door, you topple another bottle. Then, as you naturally turn left while walking in through the door, you see the monster. And so this is the second time the monster actually appears physically as a reaction of the bottle breaking. And this is also where the monster is able to catch you for the first time. After this first event, when you break the bottle upon entry, you have to be careful, because if you break more, then the monster will physically come and chase you.
Is there any spot in the game that you kind of look at now and like, I wish you could have done that properly or differently?
One that comes to my mind is the areas that we call the heap hallways in level 4, where the scary cope monster is like on top of you most of the time, where if you're not careful, you'll knock down bottles, and which will make him come and chase you and all that. And that there are several reasons for that, particularly because the audio system is really bugged or whatever it is. It's crazy, the whole, because it's supposed to be like the scariest part, the most intense parts of the game, and then sometimes it doesn't ever play sounds. So but we have of course seen playthroughs where it does work, and that's just then I think it's a lot better. But just the whole the AI to just the monster behavior and stuff, I guess every of the monster encounter turned out a bit different, and I would have wanted them to be a bigger part of the game. I would have, because the goal was to have a lot more hiding, that you were supposed to just like, we're gonna make hiding spots everywhere so you can always just hide underneath something, and so the monster can pass you. And then as we started developing and we encountered some troubles and some hardships, and it just I just had to accept at some point, like, we're not gonna get the AI that I really picture in my head, and it's not gonna be as organic as I want it to be. So yeah, the parts with the AI, and particularly in level 4 Into the Closet, I would have liked to changed.
This is also a fun fact. The last teaser for our game was filmed in this very hallway. That's right, kids. It was all real.
Yeah, we wanted the monster here to wanted the player to feel like the monster could appear anywhere, and the monster should be going through closet doors, and every closet door could be a danger. The monster ended up being a lot more standard in its behavior, as it was really hard to make it work well with the whole going in and out of closet doors, and yeah, we had a lot of issues setting this up.
There's a lot of things that are surrounding bottles in this level, and because of that, we really kind of the first time where we are really explicit about alcohol. Yeah, it was a very complex place to actually have an AI wander around, because like it's just too many obstacles for it, and like AI is at best extremely dumb. So it's basically, it was hard to get it to work correctly. So with limited kind of where we ended up, it was still cool, but yeah, our dreams were bigger certainly than this.
I wish we did a better job with everything. Like, everything could have been done better, but like, I think especially level 4 is the one I really wanted to see even better. And I also wanted to see more of the monster in level 4. It's
Right now we go back to hub. It's sort of fall shoot, and this is actually, I guess, where we sort of disregard totally the baby's safety too, because like right here you're on a shelf and you can just fall straight down. It's really not safe for the kid, but at this point we just let them realize that yeah, it's not safe for the kid anyways.
We did though. We did implement a cushion or something, right? From at yes in at
Oh
the,
yeah,
if you go to the end of the plank and jump down, there is like a pillow or something soft you can land on.
Elephants are my favorite animal. They have big ears and a long trunk. In my way.
got the final memory. Let's hurry.
Yeah, like right now it's sort of, you got everything cool, and you look forward to getting back to hub. I kind of like the fact that for all the other levels we had this, after you picked up the memory piece it was safe, you know, like there was only safety until the pipe. And for this one, this is the last one since we established the rule that it was so kind of safe, and this time we decided to break it with a heart-wrenching cutscene-ish thing.
The story builds up to this very specific point in time where the teddy bear actually gets caught by the monster and is killed. This was also designed at the time when Teddy was evil, and so to serve as another distraction, and to make the players not think of Teddy being the bad character. But we decided to keep it because it fits really well with the current story, and also this is why Teddy says upon picking up the imagination object, the fourth, he says, "We have the final piece. Let's hurry." Yeah, it's just to build up to the cutscene and just make it worse. Just he's being happy and then you just surprise the player with something horrible.